Hey guys, thank you for joining us for another Men's Bible Brief. This is Pastor Autry. If you can, join us on Wednesday mornings. The info is on the screen. If not, we got you covered right here on YouTube. Well, let's go ahead and join the brief in progress. God bless you.
A few things before we get started. We have a book series starting April the 12th. It's a book that's been in print since 1974. This is the third edition of the book, and it has 42 videos to come along with the book explaining all the principles that he's talking about. These 20 principles are taken straight from his letters to Timothy and Titus, and I think we'll find them very encouraging to grow our faith. There we have it. Brother Mark, you can take it away.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good morning, brothers. My name is Mark Miller, and I will be your host today. I'd like to welcome and thank you for attending Christ Community's Men's Bible Brief. Just a few things before we get started. Our Bible Brief lasts about 30 minutes, give or take. If you have to leave early, it's not a problem. I need everyone to know that this is a safe environment. We do not judge or crosstalk. Also, we do record only the speaker's portion and post it on Christ Community's YouTube page. After our speaker has the Bible brief, everyone will have an opportunity to make comments and or ask questions. If you have a question or comment, please raise your hand in the chat and you will be recognized. We ask that you limit your comments to no more than 2 minutes, as we want to give as many brothers as possible a chance to chop it up. So please mute yourselves at this time and maintain a level of respect, anonymity, and Zoom etiquette. Also, if you want to share links, book resources, or extended comments to the brothers, please feel free to utilize chat. If there are no other questions, let's quick breakdown. Our food for thought today is about boldness and courage. Not risk chances, take them like vitamins. Our speaker today will be Brother Juan McDuffie. Brother McDuffie, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. Juan McDuffie is my name. Looking forward to presenting to you gentlemen on today. I'd like to give you something to also think about as part of our food for thought. When the mind is blind, the eyes are useless. When the mind is blind, the eyes are useless. I'm taking that thought based upon so many times we seek God for various things. However, the Bible also says, he who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit is saying. So those people cannot hear, they're deaf, of course. So they can't actually hear. The Bible, well, there's a verse in a proverb I like, actually, not from the Bible, but a proverb I heard. It says, when the mind is blind, the eyes are useless. The question was asked by a gentleman on your anonymous forum, why doesn't God reveal himself more obviously in our everyday lives? So that is where I base my study on today. Foremost, I want us to all know that God does reveal himself. Sometimes we just don't want to hear what he has to say. One of the greatest casualties that some of us all face is that even as men, we can go to the doctor, we can go get all the blood work, but when that phone call comes in, we're scared of what the doctor may say, or we don't even want to go back and get the results. So I think that's the same way how it is with us and God. He wants to reveal himself. We may just not want to hear what he has to say, or we're not prepared for that. So foremost, how does God reveal himself, gentlemen? He does reveal himself through the word, When we talk about the word, I'm talking about not just the written word, but also when he speaks a direct word to you. Remember the story, Matthew chapter 19. The rich young ruler came to Jesus and said, what must I do to inherit eternal life? Jesus said, I tell you what, honor your mother, don't kill, don't rob. You know the scriptures, you know the law. And this man says, I've done all these things ever since I was a kid. And Jesus said, you lack one thing, sell everything you have, and then you'll have treasure in heaven. That young man turned away very discouraged because the Bible says he had many possessions. And I think that's a sad thing, is when the possessions that we carry, not just materialistic, but our ego, our pride, our anger, whatever it is, they hinder us from going into the greater possession, and that is treasure in heaven. Also, when I think about how God reveals himself through his word, I can tell you personally, there have been times in my life where I didn't know what to read. I didn't know what to pray. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to give to God. but I have opened up that Bible and I will land on something that will recharge my faith and strengthen me. Case in point, if you ever doubt the existence or God's presence in your life, Job chapter 26, verse 7, he stretches the northern skies over empty space. He hangs the earth on nothing. Gentlemen, can you think about that? He hangs the earth on nothing. And Job goes even further to say, he wraps up the clouds with water, yet they do not burst. And then I'm going to take it a step further, verse number 9. He obscures the view of his throne, spreading his cloud over it. So do you think people were just trying to go into outer space in this present day and generation? No, they've always been trying to seek what's out there. So God reveals himself through his word, not just the written word. Think about it. The people in the Bible, they weren't walking around with Bibles. So they had to recall upon the verses and the scriptures and the Torah from of old. Also, God reveals himself through prayer. Now, gentlemen, I am so disappointed sometimes when people talk about their prayer time. I think we need to change that, because the book of Acts chapter 17 and 28, verse 28 says, in him we live, we move, and we have our existence. So that means we shouldn't just have a prayer time, but we should have a prayer life, meaning where God is dwelling with us. We're always talking to him, not only talking to him, but we're giving him the chance to talk to us. Remember when the disciples came to Jesus after seeing him, when everybody is trying to give a new pronoun? I want you to think about a new pronoun. The difference between I and me is we and us. The disciples didn't say, teach me to pray. Teach us how to pray. So prayer should be an inclusive measure, something that we're using to include our brothers, ourselves, but for each other. Can everyone still hear me? As we move forward, I said that Jesus reveals himself, or God, through prayer and through his word. I left off with prayer as how we communicate with God, not only communicating with God, but allowing God to communicate to us. It's a very selfish relationship when it's one-sided. I think we know people that way. They always want to do the talking, but never want to do the listening. One of the worst things about prayer is that it's not what God reveals to us, it's our execution of a matter. It's going through, it's proceeding. It could be so simple as apologize. It could be so simple as saying, tell someone I am sorry. So it's not necessarily what he has to say, but it's us executing what he has to say. Moving forward, I also want to let us know that God reveals himself to our worship time. To me, gentlemen, that is so important. I feel that in this present day and age, with all the great praise teams and the band and all the graphics and all the lighting and even the smoke in some churches, we have too much of a concert and not real worship time. The book of Psalm 122 says, I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. Gentlemen, let me explain a little bit about that context in scripture. The individuals that we're talking about in Jerusalem, they couldn't just go to a church on a Monday night or a Wednesday night Bible study or a Sunday morning service. They had to make a travel. For those Jews who had been displaced, for those Jews who may be in other foreign territories, they had to take a voyage to get to the house of the Lord. I feel in today's situation, we have minimized even praise and worship. Think about it. Some people deliberately come late because praise and worship is just not what they're into. They just want to hear that word. But I also have to challenge the praise and worship leaders. I have to challenge also our pastors who are over the churches. As praise and worship leaders, you have to motivate the people to want to come and truly make them say, I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. Now, I'm not saying that anybody has to pump you up or shouldn't have to pump you up, but I am saying if God has called whoever is listening to be a praise and worship leader, it's just like me. If I call a mechanic, I want my car to be fixed. I'm expecting him to do what he says he is qualified to do. If you tell me you're a doctor, I want you to heal this ache in my body. Likewise, whatever God has called us to, let us make sure we're operating. And not only that, in order to operate, you also have to be under the authority of God. You see, that was the problem with the rich young ruler. He was a man so used to authority that his authority was based upon his possession, not his acquired of spiritual endowment. Moving forward, another way that God reveals himself outside of the worship is to give space to him. So when I say the word worship, I want you to translate that into literally giving space. Even when people say, I worship you, God, what does that really mean? I heard that so many times in my life. I worship you, and I'm wondering, what are you really saying? When you worship, it mandates an action. either a spoken word, you may bow, you may bend, but it does mandate. So when we say worship, let us consider the term giving. So now I can say, I give space to you, God. Think about the song, I worship you, Almighty God. I give space to you, Almighty God. There is none like you. Another way that God reveals himself is through collaboration. When we talk about collaboration, this is through me conversing with you conversing with me. Sometimes my ideas are really bad. I may want to fly off the handle, and I need someone to maybe calm me down or give me a different perspective of things. I want to give you a case in point about how collaboration can really be used to hear from God. Every one of us, I think we're probably over the age of 30, remember Blockbuster Video. How many blockbusters do you see around nowadays? None. However, we see Netflix. Some of you know the story. Netflix in its beginning infant stages actually came to Blockbuster and asked could they work together. As the story goes, and I saw the documentary, Blockbuster laughed them out of the room. They were a startup company, they were brand new, but what Netflix recognized is that VHSs were going to be a thing of the past. However, Netflix recognized that they were also going to be able to merge the powerhouses, become one, and they could all profit. Well, from laughing them out of the room, Blockbuster was laughed into bankruptcy. You have not only Netflix videos, you also have Netflix online and also streaming actions. So what does collaboration do? It allows us to be able to say your ideas may be good. So we don't just want to dismiss people, but we really want to hear them. Before we dismiss people, gentlemen, let me give you another way of listening to God. Let us hear people before dismissing them. Even in our walk with faith, there was no such thing as a religion in the Bible times. I think we dismiss people because of their beliefs being different than our beliefs instead of understanding where they're coming from. Gentlemen, it goes so basic as to you're Pentecostal, I may be Baptist. I'm Episcopalian, you may be Catholic. But when it comes down to it, the Bible says in the book of John, chapter 4, he told the woman at the well, the hour comes when we shall worship him in spirit and in truth. So again, God reveals himself through prayer, through his word, and also through collaboration. God also reveals himself through past experiences. Gentlemen, when we talk about past experiences, if ever you need a recollection of who God is and what God is supposed to be in your life, go back in your past. I want to read the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 22, verses 29. David says, "For thou art my lamp, O Lord. The Lord will lighten my darkness." This was a song of reflection. As David was getting to the end of his life, he was thinking about how God was there for him. So how does God reveal himself to us? Through our past experiences. The word of God says we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimonies. Part of this collaboration is you being open and sharing who God is and what God is to you. Now, in this day and age, I think that we've moved beyond where we used to be. But gentlemen, part of that openness comes to telling the real story. I've said before, some of us want an alcohol and drug deliverance testimony. But there are some other things that God has brought us from, and there are some other things that other individuals are going through that he can help them through if we indeed allow them to overcome by the words of our testimony. Another way that God reveals himself is through accountability. Can I say that word again? Accountability. I want to tell people that I'm trying to get healthier and do better, but sometimes I get mad when they ask me, did you drink enough water today? So accountability is going to entail you maybe getting your feelings hurt because there is someone who's supposed to hold you accountable to who you say you are and what you say you're supposed to do. Growing up, I remember my family, they used to brag on me. And I say this in all humility. I was about a 12-year-old kid, giving my life to the Lord, loving him, going to school, taking my big Bible, just proclaiming the word of the Lord. Everybody in my neighborhood helped me and everything, and they always encouraged me. There was one senior citizen lady on my street. Every single time she would see me, gentlemen, she would say, "You still saved? You still saved?" Every single time. And I tell you, as a 12-year-old kid, I didn't realize it, but what she was doing, she was charging me up in the spiritual realm. She was asking me, are you still owning up to who you say you belong to? So again, God reveals himself through collaboration and accountability. Another way God reveals himself, gentlemen, is through our relevance to other people. He reveals himself to our relevance to other people. It is good to sometimes come out of our homes. It is good to sometimes go beyond just talking to people via text and talking to them on the telephone so you can be relevant in their lives. How God reveals himself to us is through nature. I read the scripture to you before. He hangs the earth on nothing. The Bible says that the waters fill the clouds and yet they do not burst. No matter how high people try to go, they will never get to the throne room. Again, he reveals himself through his word, through prayer, through collaboration, accountability, and reverence. Another way that God reveals himself to us, gentlemen, is just what we're doing right now, humility. To wake up and come to a 7 a.m. Bible study, to not only wake up and come to a Bible study, but to seek the Lord to better ourselves. I said before, when we go to church, we go to feel good. We go to feel better. You never want to leave church being told that you are messed up, you need help, you are not where you need to be. But we should come to these small group settings so that we can be better and do better. I'm grateful that we're here. But gentlemen, I want to ask us all, are we not only just recognizing what we need to do on this 30-minute call, or do we recognize that there is work to be done after this call is over? I am so tired of even myself growing up, and I went to church and there was no experience because there was no God. I think that so many individuals, unfortunately, they are going to church, but there is no experience because there is no God presence. I never make an assumption that everybody on this call is saved and that we know the Lord. Some people actually come just because they want to be encouraged. But again, another measure of how God reveals himself is through collaboration. As I begin to close, I'd like to share this with you as well, gentlemen. The way that God reveals himself the most to us is how we allow him to reveal himself to us. Remember, the eyes are useless if the mind is blind. So I want us to take as another food for thought, we really need to practice being more quick to hear, slow to wrath, and slow to respond. I think this is one of the greatest tools we have, the mute button. It gives us all a chance to listen and process. So as I begin to end this lesson, I want you to know that yes, to that brother who asked that question, why doesn't God reveal himself more so in everyday life? He does. He actually does. It's just our lack of listening, processing, execution, and humility. Reverend Hartfield, before I lose another connection, this is the only way y'all get me off this line. It's quick. I'm gonna let you ask those questions.
Amen. The questions are, can you commit to extracting 30 minutes from 24 hours to make the Lord more relevant in the life of someone else through intercessory prayer, Bible study, a casual telephone call, or another good deed? Number 2, when not working, what occupies the bulk of your time? And number 3, when have you either dismissed or ignored the voice of God, sound advice, or common sense? There you have it, Brother Miller. It's all yours.